Are you listening? Damn.
Hi guys, Coach Rebecca. Thanks for jumping on and joining me. Are you guys ready to go live here and talk about food cravings? You guys, seriously, I have been an animal lately. I don't know what my deal is. I don't know if it's the fact that I have been working out more than usual, but I am starving all the time. And the worst thing in the world for me is when I'm starving, and guess what? It brings on my crazy old bad habits and crazy food cravings. So you guys, today I'm going to talk with you all about my 7 things you need to know to curb those food cravings. It's noon. We're going to give people a couple minutes to log on. Hopefully you're grabbing some lunch and enjoying this time with me. You guys, I'm going to try and keep this live cast to under 15 minutes, but in a perfect world, under 10 minutes, so that it's just a bite-sized pick of how to overcome these food cravings, and you can take this into the weekend. So let me turn my volume down here on my music. So while we wait for people to get logged in, you guys, I want to know from you, what kind of food cravings do you have? So for me lately, which is very, very weird, I am not normally a big sweet tooth person. I am not always a huge chocolate person. I tend to be more of a salty cravings kind of gal. But lately, it has been sugar that I've been craving. I keep a pretty lean sugar diet. I don't do a whole lot of sugar. Probably the closest thing I come is really fruit. But I have recently had to go to some of my staples for healthier sugar craving options, and I'm going to be sharing those later on today in another live cast at about 5 o'clock. I am going to be going over my 3 favorite recipes that help me to overcome my chocolate and my sugar sweet tooth cravings right now. So make sure you jump back over at about 5 o'clock this evening, and I'm going to give you 3 super simple recipes that will help you curb your sweet tooth. So you guys, let's get started. And again, as you log in, let me know where you're from. Let me know you're here and watching. And again, let me know, what are your crazy cravings that maybe I can help you to come up with an alternative or a solution for. So let's go over our 7 things you need to know. My first thing that I always tell everyone when they come to me and say they've been dying of food cravings or having a hard time overcoming their food cravings is ask yourself why. So I am definitely not a proponent of completely depriving yourself and saying that you absolutely can't have something, and we'll talk about that in a second. But what I do tell people is when you're having a food craving, just stop for that moment. This is a little drill that takes maybe less than 3 minutes, but it will help you all the time, you guys. And that is, first things first, ask yourself, am I really hungry? What's going on right now? Am I hungry? Am I bored? Am I tired? Am I stressed? Am I happy? This all goes back to the fact that you really need to take note of what's going on in your mind when you start to get a food craving, because guess what? Those food cravings aren't coming from our belly. They're coming from our brains. And so we need to slow ourselves down and really be more mindful of what's going on. And we talk a ton on Ditch the Scale and just on all of my live casts about being more mindful about our choices. And this hits it on the nose, you guys. So number 1 tip is when you start to get a food craving, go through a quick little drill. And again, ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I bored? Start to identify why you might be craving that item. That's tip number 1 within 1. 2, the second question you're going to ask yourself is it worth it? Is it worth eating it, even though you know it's going to maybe set you back a step in the progress that you've made? The third question you're going to ask in that same little is it worth it type moment is, how am I going to feel after I have eaten it? And what my rule of thumb is if I can honestly answer those 3 things and I still feel like I should eat it or that I still want it, then I do. I do enjoy it. So you guys, I'm not saying that cravings are absolutely dead no, avoid them at all points, because that's just not reality. That's not real life. but at least be mindful first before you choose to take a bite. Make sure you're asking yourself those 3 quick questions so that you're really understanding why it is you want that item. All right, guys, so that was tip number 1. Tip number 2, you guys, is willpower versus preparation. You've heard me say it before, I am not a believer in willpower, you guys. I just don't think it exists. To me, I believe in preparation. So what I mean by that is that you need to start to identify where your weaknesses are. What are your food cravings? Trust me, you know, you've been doing them for long enough that you know when you're gonna be tempted. And what's most important is that not that you're feeling horrible about yourself if you give in to that temptation, but that you're better prepared when that craving comes up. So when I say you're better prepared, you know if you have chocolate cravings, you know if you have salty cravings. You need to make sure that you've got grab and go snacks, that you've got items that you literally can just reach into your purse, reach into your car, wherever you're at. You need to make sure you've got a backup plan, right? That's the toolbox. You need to be prepared. So if you are a person who constantly craves chocolate, make sure that you've got maybe a healthy protein bar that has a little bit of dark chocolate in it. It's a healthier option than a candy bar, but you're gonna still be able to curb that craving and in a healthier format. So again, we're talking here tip number 2, and that is, I don't believe in willpower, I believe in preparation. So tip number 2 is you need to be prepared. All right, guys, tip number 3. This is a mindset shift, and this is, my term of number 3 is can't versus can. We get into this mindset, and you guys, it spikes that craving, I think, even higher, is when we get into this thought process that I can't have it. I can't have that because it's not on the plan. I can't have that because it won't fit into my container count for the day. I can't. We need to flip that mindset, you guys. When you have a craving, when you get a craving, it needs to stop being about I can't have that, and it needs to flip and be what can I have that would maybe satisfy that craving? What can I have that would actually get me, you know, over this food craving and still be a healthier option? So again, it's a shift of mindset when we come to being faced with those junk food cravings that we have, and stop ourselves in our tracks and shift your mindset from the fact that you can't have that item and shift your mindset towards what items are available to me at this very moment that I can have. You guys, this is a tricky one that especially happens when we're checking out at the grocery store or at a Walgreens or whatever, because guess what? The aisles are traditionally lined with junk, right? But guess what? Stores are getting better and better at this, you guys, by still stocking some healthier options close to the registers. So if you're looking at something like a candy bar or a Payday or whatever, I don't even know a lot of the candy bars that are out there these days because it's been so long. But again, if you're getting that sweet tooth craving, look, I will bet you bucks that you're gonna find maybe a little baggage of trail mix sitting right there in that aisle too. So again, redirect your mindset. Stop thinking about what you can't have. Start thinking about what you can have. That was tip number 3. Tip number 4 is, again, it's a lot of mindset piece, right? It's redirect your mind and train of thought. If you're having a food craving, you guys, most times, I don't know about you, but for sure for me, it a lot of times comes from boredom, stress. So again, triggers for your cravings a lot of times come from these items. Are you tired? Are you bored? Are you stressed out? So when I say shift your mindset, sometimes the answer to curbing a craving isn't eating something healthy. Sometimes it's doing something different. So that goes back into that play of switch your mindset. If you're at your desk at work and you're stressed out, something is bothering you, whatever the case may be, and that triggers you to start to be hungry or to crave something junk food, I need you to get up. I need you to walk away from your desk. I need you to refocus your mind. Think of something positive. Think of what you're going to do this weekend and how much you're going to enjoy your weekend off. Whatever it is, you need to reshift your mindset. If you're in a place, my number 1 recommendation for shifting your mindset when you're stressed out or you're being bored, is stand up wherever you're at and do 10 jumping jacks, you guys. Not only is this gonna just reinvigorate your body from an energy standpoint, but again, your mind stops thinking about that food craving and that desire to eat something, and it shifts to just feeling better because you're moving. So your mind is no longer focused on the negative, it's focused on the positive. So again, tip number 4 was redirect your mindset, and that's not always looking for a healthier food option. Sometimes it's just looking for a healthier physical option for something to do to get your mind off the stress, tired, bored, and get it redirected and refocused on something positive. All right, guys, tip number 5, drink water. I know, you guys hear this all the time, for sure. You always see I have water with me, you guys. And sometimes people ask, I do a combination from a water standpoint, you guys. I don't always drink plain water. A lot of times I'll put like a sprig of Crystal Light, and I'm talking like a sprig. I don't need that crazy flavor. I just need a hint of something in it. I do lemons, I do infused water, I do my Energize, you guys. There's all sorts of ways that you can jazz up your water so that it's not totally boring. But when it comes to curbing your food cravings, again, a lot of times it's a brain trigger telling you that you're hungry. So if you just stop whatever you're doing and you chug water, number 1, it's gonna turn that trigger off in your mind that's saying, feed me, feed me, feed me, because you're giving it something, you're giving it sustenance, number 1. Number 2, I tend to find that your trigger for food cravings also comes from being hungry because you're not eating often enough, you guys. So when I think about this tip number 5 is kind of a combo tip. It's either 1, chug some water, or 2, ask yourself, are you eating often enough? Again, we want small portions, we want the healthier items, and we want to be eating them often enough so that that trigger in your brain that says, hungry, feed me, doesn't go off. It doesn't need to go off like an alarm, because you're going to be feeding it often enough that when you're truly hungry, it's going to say, feed me. It's not going to trick you when you're really bored to say, feed me. All right, guys? So again, tip number 5 is chug some water, or really think back to, am I eating often enough of the healthy things that are going on so that my brain isn't triggered to scream out, feed me, when you're really not hungry and craving those junk food items. All right, guys, tip number 6, we're almost done. And that is, it's okay to indulge with limits. And so you guys, again, this kind of goes back to a couple of these other tips, like the can't versus can, or the just redirecting your mindset, or willpower versus preparation, you guys. So tip number 6 is, it is okay to indulge with limits. So if you are having a food craving, I see this all the time, people that get into this mindset that they cannot ever indulge, even within small quantities, and what ends up happening, those are the people that crash the hardest when they crash. Trust me, I lived in this world forever, and I never believed that it was possible for me to indulge with limits. And what I did was, I said no, no, no to everything, and then what ended up happening was, I would wait until I was by myself, or I would wait until the weekend, or when I was alone, and I would binge, and I would go way over the top. And you guys, when I say binge, I'm talking full on crazy woman. And I wouldn't even remember eating what I ate. It was absolutely bananas. But all of that came from the fact that I tried to live under this philosophy that I could never indulge even the slightest in junk food or food that wasn't on my approved list. We are not perfect. We are not beings intended to be perfect, you guys. So don't strive for perfection. Give yourself a scope. Give yourself an inch, you guys. I'm not saying take a mile like we would when we binge, but take an inch. If you absolutely say, and you go through my drill and you say, I've asked myself why, I feel good about what I'm going to eat, I feel okay with how I'm going to feel afterwards. If you've answered those questions and you still feel like you want that item, then do it, but do it within limits. So don't go full force to a whole candy bar. You want to break off a piece. Enjoy a piece, you guys. It's okay. But what I want you to do, and I know this isn't the most budget conscious answer, you guys, but I truly want you to. If you're at that grocery store and you buy that candy bar, you're taking a piece off of it, like a small little quarter of it, off of it, and you are throwing the rest away, you guys, because guess what? I am just as guilty of this, and I'm telling you, if it is there, you will eat it. So take the small portion so that you get that food craving out of your system and get rid of the rest of it. This goes 10 times, you guys. We'll do a pantry, maybe tour of my pantry and my kitchen here in the weeks to come, because guess what? I am a proponent, out of sight, out of mind. I do not keep junk food here because I know that if it's here, I will eat it. If it is here, my family will eat it. But if we do something special, again, this is indulging with limits. When we go somewhere, we know we eat what we can or a small portion of it, and we get rid of the rest. So again, that is tip number 6, is indulge with limits. All right, you guys, last tip, tip number 7. And this goes back to what I was just saying about my pantry, you guys. Keep it clean. If you want to go through, you want to empty your cupboards, you guys, because if it is in sight, it is going to be in your mind. When we're sitting down, and this is when I say keep it clean, it's not just in your kitchen. What are you watching? What are you watching maybe on TV when you start to get cravings? I'm betting if you're anything like me, you're sitting down at night watching some television, catching up with the family, and food channels on. And all of a sudden, Hungry Monster starts to get into your brain and into your tummy and telling you that you're craving some crazy junk food. And guess what? It's because you're watching Cupcake Wars. You guys, I love the food channel, but it is the worst thing for me when it comes to controlling my food and nutrition, because I'm watching it and it always will trigger the Hungry Monster in my mind. So you guys, keep it clean. Think about what you're watching. If you're watching Cupcake Wars, I'm not saying not to watch Cupcake Wars because it's so fun to watch, but ask yourself, if you're all of a sudden craving sweets or a cupcake or something you know that you likely shouldn't do, is it because of what you're watching? Is it because when you open up your cupboards, there's items there that are tempting you to succumb to the hangry monster that's telling you to eat junk food? The only person you have to blame, if you're watching stuff like that, or you're keeping your cupboards full of junk food that's tempting you every single day, the only person you have to blame is you. You have control over that, so take control over it, and it will help you to not succumb to the junk food monster. Okay, you guys? All right, so let's go recap over these 7 quick tips. Number 1, ask yourself why. Take note, understand what your food cravings are, why you're craving them, when you're craving them, you guys. And that is our tip number 1. Get an understanding of what your cravings are so that we can do tip number 2, and that is be prepared. Tip number 2 is willpower versus preparation. Don't worry about willpower, you guys. Be prepared. If you do your job on tip number 1 and you figure out what are your cravings, when do you crave them, where are you at when you crave them, what's going on in your brain when you crave them, and you prepare items, you prepare healthier options to be able to not succumb to those food cravings. You're going to eat those healthier options when those food cravings come up, you guys. You have got this, all right? So tip number 2 is willpower versus preparation. You need to be prepared with grab-and-go snacks that are gonna help you overcome those food cravings. Tip number 3, shift your mindset. Stop thinking about what you can't have and start thinking about what you can have. Don't think, I can't have that candy bar. Think, I can have a kind bar that's gonna be healthier, cleaner to eat, and it's gonna be better for me. All right, guys? Tip number 4, redirect your train of thought. If you are hungry, it doesn't always mean look for an alternative to eat. It might mean get up, do some jumping jacks. Get up, take a walk. Do something. You're likely bored. You're likely stressed. Shift your mindset, meditate, whatever you need to do, brush your teeth, do something else besides succumbing to that food craving. You can do it. Trust me, if you just reshift your mindset for minimum of a minute to 3 minutes, you're gonna forget about that food craving. I promise you. All right, guys, tip number 5, drink water and make sure you are eating the healthy things often enough. If you are not drinking water, if you're not filling your belly, if you aren't filling your belly with the right things often enough, that's what's setting that hangry monster trigger off in your head that's telling your belly from your brain is telling your belly, feed me junk. You guys, if you're drinking your water, if you are eating often enough and the right things, that trigger will not go off as often. All right, guys, tip number 6, indulge with limits. It is okay to indulge, you guys. Just don't overindulge. We want to take bite-sized pieces. We don't want to deprive ourselves. We want to be able to take a bite, enjoy, and get rid of the rest so that we don't overdo it. All right? Last tip, you guys, tip number 7, and this is all you. Keep it clean. Keep the cupboards clean. Keep the fridge clean. Keep your TV clean of what you're watching, you guys. You need to be doing the right things to support your success on this journey. And if your cupboards are filled or your refrigerator is filled with items that are full of junk, guess what? You are going to succumb to weakness and food cravings way more often. You've got to control your environment, because if you can control that environment as much as possible, you guys, by keeping things out of sight, they will be out of your mind. You will not crave them as often. This I can promise you. So this was your 7 things you need to know about overcoming food cravings. I hope you take away at least 1 or 2 of these items that help you the next time the hangry monster comes knocking or tapping at your shoulder or knocking at your door. And don't forget, you guys, come back and see me tonight, 5 o'clock, live at Ditch the Scale, because I'm going to be showing you my 3 favorite tips and recipes right now, my 3 favorite recipes to help me overcome my crazy sugar cravings lately. I can't wait to see you, and of course, as always, I sign off by telling ya, love ya. Have an awesome afternoon, you guys.